I get it, there's a lot of hype when you scroll through home theater listings. The pictures look pristine, the specs read like they belong on a high-end audiophile site, and the reviews are all 5 stars. But the moment the box lands on your floor and you hook the wires up, the excitement can turn into disappointment. A lot of people end up with a system that looks great on paper but either sounds flat in a cramped living room or overwhelms a modest space. That's why I'm spending a few minutes breaking down the Fluance Reference Surround 5.0 speaker set, so you can figure out if it's a fit before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation I hear from folks considering a full-range 5.0 system is, will I actually need 4 towers and a center speaker in my apartment? In a lot of urban apartments, you've got limited wall space, a sofa that's not exactly centered, and a TV that's maybe 50 inches. You might worry that a Bigfoot floor-standing set will dominate the room, or that the surround speakers will end up buried behind furniture. The Fluance set tries to address that by offering walnut-finished towers that blend into a modern core and a center channel that's meant to be fairly compact. But the real test comes when you actually pull the cables, place the rear speakers, and start a movie night. I've spent the past week in a typical 2-bedroom, 250-square-foot apartment, swapping out my old bookshelf pair for this Fluance kit. The front left and right towers each have a down-firing 8-inch subwoofer integrated into the cabinet, a woven fiber mid-range driver, and a silk dome tweeter. The center channel mirrors that driver layout but with a smaller cabinet, and the 2 surround speakers are bookshelf-style units meant to sit on either side of the couch. What I learned is that the down-firing subs do a surprisingly good job of filling the low end without the need for a separate subwoofer box. In a room where the bass can otherwise feel woolly, the 8-inch drivers produce a punchy thump that you can actually feel when an explosion hits on screen. The mid-range performance is where the set really shines for dialogue and most instrumentation. The woven fiber drivers seem designed to reduce resonance, and that translates to clearer speech. I tried a few dialogue-heavy scenes from a recent drama, and the voices stayed distinct even when the background music swelled. The tweeters, being silk domes, add a nice sparkle to high-frequency effects. That means you can hear the subtle rustle of leaves or the glint of a sword without it turning shrill. In a room with minimal acoustic treatment, just a rug and a couple of throw pillows, the speakers managed to keep the highs crisp without sounding brittle. That said, there are a couple of trade-offs you need to be aware of. Because the design relies heavily on the cabinet's rigidity, the towers are fairly heavy, each one feels like it could double as a dumbbell. Moving them around is doable but not something you'll want to do weekly. If you like to rearrange your living space often, the weight could become a nuisance. Also, the front towers sit on floor level, so they can pick up vibrations from the floor. In my setup, the hardwood floor amplified the bass a bit more than I'd like. A simple isolation pad solved it, but it's an extra piece of gear you'll need to consider. Another practical concern is the rear surround placement. The bookshelf speakers are meant to sit at ear height when seated, which works fine if you have a couch that's not too low. In my case, the couch seats are a little lower than average, so I propped the surrounds on a low stool to get the sweet spot right. If you have a very low seating arrangement, you might end up with a slight dip in the surround field, which can affect immersive movies. This isn't a deal breaker, it just means you need to plan your speaker placement a bit more deliberately than you would with a set that includes wall-mountable surrounds. Now, who should bite? If you're a movie or TV enthusiast who already has a decent AVR, audio-video receiver, and you want to step up from modest bookshelf pairs without splurging on a separate subwoofer, the Fluance Reference Surround makes sense. The integrated down-firing sub in each tower gives you that extra bass oomph without needing another box, conserving space. Gamers will also appreciate the precise mids and clear highs, especially for first-person shooters where pinpoint audio cues matter. The walnut finish is a nice aesthetic bonus for anyone who cares about the visual integration of their gear. Who should skip it? If you're living in a very small studio where you can't accommodate 2 tall towers and a center speaker, or if you already have a dedicated subwoofer and prefer a more compact front left/right setup, You might be better off with a true 5.1 package that separates the sub entirely. Likewise, if you plan to mount speakers on the wall,